Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over, so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good to see you again. Good to be back. Last year, the summer of last year, it was the spring of last year, I did my pastoral internship in St. Patrick Parish, Bisbee. And in this parish, I met a lot of good people, just like I continue to meet a lot of good people here in Sawarita. One of those good people I met was Mary. May God rest her soul. One morning, I was in the parking lot and I saw Mary on her way to the kitchen to share food with the poor, the needy, because she was a member of St. Vincent de Paul Society. So when Mary saw me, she stopped and asked me, "Justin, how are you doing financially?" And I was like, that's a very broad question. How am I to answer it? But before I could say anything, she said, "I mean, you pay for your school, right?" Then I said, "The diocese does that." So Mary opened her purse, looked up to me and smiled. Then she said, You know, I am doing this not to show off, but I guess you might have some need. Then she handed me $20 and smiled again. So I said, oh, that's wonderful, that's great. And it is even your smile that has made it greater. And then Mary said, he gives and I distribute. Those wonderful words stayed with me, and they will continue to stay with me. I will continue to remember Mary. This morning we have heard from the readings of different people who did such things as this. A man who came to Elisha with the loaves that was made from the first fruits of his hand, noticed that this was a gift from God, and he needed to bring it to God because he knew Elisha was the man of God. So bringing the fruit of what he had labored for to Elisha was like giving thanks to God and allowing the words of God to give him thanks, as we have heard from the psalm. That the words of God, all the words of God, are to give thanks to God, and so that the faithful, all the faithful, will bless him. The man brought the food and he handed it to Elisha, but Elisha in return said he should give it to the people to eat. And surprisingly to this man, he said, this is not enough for the people because it's a great number for this amount of food. And Elisha insisted, with the confidence he had in the word of God. And what happened was the people really had it enough, and they had some left over. That was because Elisha had confidence in the word of God that they will eat and have some left over. And Jesus Christ himself, who is himself the word of God, has made use of what was offered by the little boy, few amount of bread and fish. He was able to make use of this as God to multiply it for a great number of people, 5,000 people. The God who was doing all these great works in the lives of the people of the past continues to do it through us, because as St. Paul reminds us, he is the one God who is above all, who is over all, in all, and works through all. So we, all of us who belong to the one God whom we believe, that has been doing this in the past, continues to do it now and in the future. If we believe that the gifts we have are to be shared among ourselves, then we will notice how the one God will be able to multiply and give joy to those who share what they get from him. Some of us have got many gifts in abundance, but many of us have few. But still, no matter how much or how little we have, we are invited to share, to make use of what we have, no matter how little, because the little boy brought little amount of bread and fish. The man in Shalisha brought some loaves that were not enough for a big number of people, but they were able to share. Many of us, or few of us, will have in abundance. But if we have our hands full and we do not empty our hands out for others, then there will be no room left in our hands for any new gifts. So there is need for us to empty our hands for others. And even if we have got not much, when we believe that with God there will be much, even if it is little, then what matters is the sharing. Mary shared $20 with me, not knowing that few days before that morning, I had made a donation with $10. I emptied myself of $10 and Mary filled me up with $20. I got more than what I had given her. And there was joy in Mary's face. I could see that she shared her money with me and shared her joy. She said to me, "He gives and I distribute, and that is why I smile." Talking about emptying ourselves, Jesus Christ himself, knowing very well that he is equal to God in nature, did not count his equality with God as something to be used for his own advantage, but he decided in humility to empty of himself, to become one of us, taking upon himself our nature, because he knew that if he did not empty himself of that equality, he would not be able to become man. So he, in humility, decided to come in humility to become one of us and to share the gift of God with us, to share himself, to offer of himself. He did not only feed the people with the loaves that he got from others, but he, in the end, shared his body and his blood in the form of bread and wine. And he continues to share that with us. At this mountain of our gathering, which we call Mass, we will be sharing that gift of Christ's body and blood. Even if the little amount of wine or the little amount of bread that becomes the body and blood of Christ which we share does not satisfy the physical hunger, we know that it satisfies the spiritual hunger that enables us to have that life that we can share with others, the life that brings joy for all eternity. Few days ago, one of my mentors in Nigeria, by name Father Titus, posted on Facebook his picture by the Dead Sea. And he added few words saying that the Dead Sea is a body of water, a sea that collects water from the Sea of Galilee and the Jordan River, but does not give it out to any other river or sea. It keeps the water that it collects from these other seas or other rivers. That is why it is called the Dead Sea. So now we know that if we, according to Father Titus, if we do not share what the gifts that we receive from God or the gifts that we receive from others, then we will just be like Dead Sea in our families, in our community, in our workplaces, and in the parish. We are invited to let the gift of God that come to us flow to others. Let the gift flow. Let us share the gifts that we have from God, because we know that when we share, there is joy. Jesus has taught us how to share and care. When we share our knowledge, those of us who are teachers, we agree with me that when we communicate what we know, then we even help ourselves to understand more than even those who listen to us. Because when we communicate, we retain the knowledge and it lasts longer than when we just keep what we know to ourselves, which is easily forgotten. So, knowledge is to be shared. Our gifts of all kinds are to be shared because we know that we got all this from God and they are for the purpose of sharing. When we share our time with others in the church or anywhere, there is joy. We are invited to share our time, to share our talents, to share our resources, our gifts that we receive from God, so that we will not be as good as dead, like the Dead Sea, but to share, because God Himself is reminding us today and wants us to know the importance of sharing and caring.